We held the October 5th, 2023 special meeting of the public work session of the Portsmouth City School Board. I now call the meeting to order. Ask you to please stand now and call the meeting for a brief moment of silence. Please remain standing as we lead the Pledge of Allegiance by Ms. Woodman Trail.
Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Seaton. Item 2.4 is a reading by mission statement. Mr. Trail.
The mission of the Portsmouth Public School Division is to engage all students in learning that will foster academic excellence and responsible citizenship.
Thank you so much. Item 2.5, attendance, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Ms. Atkinson? Here. Mrs. Boone? Here. Dr. Cotton? Mrs. Futrell?
Here.
Mrs. Shumate? Here. Mrs. Thomas?
Here.
Dr. Whitaker? Here. Dr. Patillo?
Here.
8 members present.
Thank you so much. Agenda item 2.6, approval of the agenda for October 5th, 2022-23. I entertain a motion at this time.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion made by Vice Chair Atkinson, second by Ms. Futrell. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mrs. Boone?
Yes.
Dr. Cotton?
Yes.
Mrs. Futrell?
Yes.
Mrs. Shumate?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Dr. Patillo?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you so much. Agenda item 3.1 is a presentation by our friends from USI, who are here now. They'll come forward to give us an update on 2023 health plan costs. Thank you again.
Thank you. All right, well, good evening, everyone. My name is Gwen Wellman-Flick, and joining me tonight is my colleague, Michael Washington. We are with USI Insurance Services, and we are the employee benefits consultant for Portsmouth Public Schools. So tonight we'll be talking to you about the medical plan renewal for the upcoming plan year. All right, so to give you a bit of a background, you'll see Portsmouth Public Schools currently utilizes Optima Health to administer both its medical program as well as to provide pharmacy benefits. One change that we would like to note is that Optima Health will be changing their name to Centera Health Plans. However, that is not going to be impacting the existing network or the network of available facilities and providers. So it's simply a name change. They do have a communication strategy in place, so of course the employees of the school system will be notified, and they'll also be receiving new ID cards and plan materials with the new Centera Health logo as well. The medical plan is self-funded, which does include excess loss insurance contract, in other words, stop loss, through Optima Health Insurance Company. And essentially what the stop loss contract does is that provides protection for the school system against large claims. Currently, the school system is offering its employees with a choice of 3 medical plan options: a health maintenance or HMO plan, also a point of service or a POS plan. That plan does provide for out-of-network benefits as well. And then lastly, a high deductible health plan, which is paired with a health savings account or an HSA. Out of the 1,385 employees that are currently enrolled in the medical plan, 51% are enrolled in the POS plan, 38% are enrolled in the HMO plan, and the remaining 11% are enrolled in the high deductible plan with the HSA. Primarily, the enrollment is heaviest in the point of service plan because that does have the lowest premiums in comparison to the other traditional plan option, which is the HMO plan. So wanted to give a brief update on the current U.S. benefits landscape. So currently we are seeing health insurance increases typically range between 8 and 10% annually, and that's not just nationally, that is locally as well. So there's a few variables that do factor into that. First of all, the healthcare industry is experiencing significant clinical labor shortages, and healthcare labor costs have increased considerably. In addition to that, that is causing provider and hospital contracts to be renegotiated as healthcare providers are demanding increases in unit cost for services. Also, competition post-pandemic for talent still remains fierce. So there are challenges with recruitment as well as turnover. There's higher than average turnover with job openings that are going unfilled for longer than before the pandemic. So there is an increased cost associated with attracting and retaining talent. Next, you'll see gene therapies. So high-cost specialty drugs and emerging therapies when it comes to gene therapy are currently having a significant impact on current healthcare and reinsurance market trends. Many of the gene therapy drugs range anywhere from $300,000 to $2 million, so that is having a considerable impact on the healthcare industry overall. Next, we're seeing double-digit reinsurance trends. So as we mentioned, the specific stop loss, nationally we are seeing an average increase of 15 to 20% minimally, even with favorable claims experience. Plan-specific experience, so if a plan has higher than average claims utilization, that may even drive higher than average renewals. And then lastly, we're starting to see an increase in carriers imposing lasers. So what a laser is it's a risk management strategy where the carrier imposes a higher stop-loss deductible on certain individuals to minimize the increase in fixed premiums. Note that Portsmouth Public Schools does not have any lasered individuals, but that is something that we are currently seeing be more prevalent in the marketplace. Right, so next we're moving into the renewal now that we've moved through the background. So looking at overall renewal factors, first we'll look at demographic changes. So we're looking at the current rolling 12-month period as compared to the prior rolling 12-month period. And you'll see from July of 2022 to June of 2023, average employee enrollment has decreased by 7.2%. So that average has decreased from 1,509 to 1,401 enrolled employees. Next, you'll see medical and pharmacy claims year over year, again comparing the current 12-month period to the prior 12-month period. Paid medical and pharmacy claims have decreased by 8.7% from 17.6 million to 16.1 million. Now, some of that is attributed to the decline in enrollment, but as you'll see with the next bullet point, where we've adjusted for enrollment and factoring in net cost per employee per month, that has decreased 1.7%. So claims overall, even on a per employee per month basis, have declined. I note that pharmacy represents 32.4% of total claim spend. That is not unusual. We do typically see on average pharmacy claim spend representing between 20 and 35% of total cost. Much of that is due to specialty medications, new high-cost specialty medications that are being introduced to the marketplace is an attributing factor. And then lastly, there were 3 claims in excess of the $400,000 specific stop loss level compared to 1 in the prior year. But as we'll see on the next screen, overall high cost claimants over $50,000 have declined. All right, so to that last point, high-cost claimants over $50,000 have decreased from 7.6 million to 6.8 million, which does represent an 11.8% decrease. So definitely running more favorably when we're looking at large claimants. Current year high dollar claimants do represent 42.2% of total paid claims. So that is a significant portion of total expenses are attributed to the high cost claimants, which is average, and that's what we see in the industry across the board. And in comparison to the prior year, it was about 43% of high dollar claimants were percentage of total claims. So running pretty consistent by way of that. And then as mentioned, we're seeing health insurance trends range from 8 to 10%. The current national medical industry trend is 8.5% for medical and 9.6% for pharmacy, which is a blended composite annual trend of 8.9%. So that means that generally, if if we're seeing an employer with average claims experience, they could expect to see a 9% increase. And then last bullet, I know we've talked a lot about the COVID-19 pandemic, but it is very true to point out that we did see a spike in claims in 2021 as we were coming out of the pandemic. People were starting to utilize their coverage again. They were scheduling procedures that they had previously delayed. So we saw that spike in 2021. And since then, in 2022 and moving into 2023, we're starting to see claims normalize back to the pre-pandemic levels. Yes.
Yes, sorry. What's the difference between high-cost claimants and high-dollar claimants? Are they the same thing?
They are the same thing. Thank you for that. So high-cost claimants and high-dollar claimants, different terminology, but those are comparable.
They were, it was 11 plus 42%. That was the total percentage last year. You're saying there was a decrease, but it still represents almost 50%.
So there was a decrease in the total dollar amount that was paid for high-cost claimants, so $7.6 million to $6.8 million. So that's the total dollars, but as a percentage of total claims, it's remained the same. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. All right, so next slide is focusing on the plan cost projection for 2024. So this is for a continuation of the current plan provisions, with the exception of a couple of IRS mandated change, which we'll talk about in a later slide, but also for maintaining employee contributions. The 2024 renewal projection represents a 4.7% increase over the 2023 budget, which is an $843,000 annual increase from $17.98 million to $18.83 million. And as noted, the trend increase that was used in the projection was 9%, so that's what we're seeing on average. So the reason Portsmouth Public Schools is coming in at that 4.7% instead of 9% is because your claims experience is running more favorably than average. So next up is a historical cost summary, and I'll try to focus in on the high level points. But if you look on the bottom, the left-hand side, so you'll see since plan year 2017, there's been an industry trend increase average, so that's all the plan years since 2017, of 8.23%. Now, if we're looking at the school system's final increase, also since 2017, that average has been 2.02%. So running much lower than the average industry trend increase. And then I'll also point your attention to the far right. You'll see net cost to budget. So again, since this 2017 plan year, the average net cost to budget was at 98%, meaning running 2% below what the budgeted costs have been on average for that time frame. And then lastly, I'll point out in blue, you'll see plan year 2023 year to date. So we were projecting a 5% increase for 2023. Currently, the plan is running at 93% net cost to budget, so about 7% below budget, which is good news and did help favorably in the renewal projection for 2024. Also in red at the bottom, I wanted to definitely point this out. Employee contributions have remained unchanged for 5 years in a row, from 2019 to 2023. So no changes in employee contributions for the employees during all of those 5 years. And then also medical plan designs have remained unchanged for 4 years in a row, from 2020 to 2023. So the next slide is the 2024 benefits overview. So no changes other than IRS mandated changes, and you'll see those are in blue. So first of all, if we look at the left, the consumer-driven health plan with the HSA, the IRS did increase the minimum deductible required in order for that to remain an HSA qualified plan. So it's not just the school system having to make that change, it is employers across the board. So as a result, that the current deductible is $3,000 per individual and $6,000 per family. It's increasing to $3,200 per individual and $6,400 per family. But again, that was an IRS mandated change. And then in the far right, you'll see the HMO plan. This also was an IRS mandated change that was required based on mental health parity requirements. So this is really an enhancement. The outpatient surgery benefit is currently 20% after the deductible. That is changing to a $300 copayment. So that is an enhancement because that will inevitably cost employees less out of pocket when they are seeking outpatient surgery versus the current 20% after deductible benefit. And then I also wanted to point out, to pair with that consumer-driven health plan with the HSA, the school system does contribute $1,000 annually into that account on the employee's behalf for them to utilize toward qualified medical expenses, and that is to encourage participation in the high deductible plan. And then you'll see for 2023 and 2024 employee payroll contributions, they are exactly the same. No changes to employee costs, so employees will not see any more coming out of their paycheck for those plans. And then again, just to reiterate, employee payroll deductions have remained unchanged for 5 years in a row. So the next slide focuses on employee communication and education. So the school system will be utilizing Triad for the 2024 plan year. So that is an enrollment and education firm, and they also have a very robust technology platform as well. So ultimately what Triad does is it provides a one-on-one concierge, highly customized enrollment experience, and that is to educate and inform employees of their benefit options. So the great value to Triad is that there are a variety of different ways that employees are able to engage with their associates. A combination of on-site call center and online enrollment. So really whatever employees feel comfortable with, they do have the option of those 3 different methods to be educated and engage with those benefit counselors. And then additional employee education efforts include a customized employee benefits guide where all of the benefits information is in one place, a pre-recorded open enrollment video presentation with 24/7 access, a benefits website, and a customized mobile app. And then also with regard to the high deductible plan paired with the HSA, there's an educational presentation and also a plan decision support tool, which does help employees select the best medical plan option for them and their family members. And there's a lot on this slide, but wellness initiatives and 2024 plan enhancements. First of all, the preventive RX rider for medical management is available on the HSA plan. What that means is there's no cost to employees for preventive medications for chronic diseases. Secondly, there's disease management programs available related to diabetes management, respiratory conditions, cardiovascular disease, and pregnancy. And what that program does is provides for a $200 healthcare incentive and no-cost medications related to the condition. So we know preventive care is very important because it is important to get conditions diagnosed early on. For example, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, important for those employees to engage with their physician and make sure they're adhering to medications and getting treated for those, because otherwise down the line, if those go untreated, those can turn into catastrophic medical events such as heart attacks, strokes, and kidney disease. So third bullet point, you'll see the OMADA pre-diabetes educational program. So the goal of that program is to prevent at-risk individuals from developing diabetes. There have been 119 employees enrolled in that program with a total of 781 pounds lost. And the next focus is new for 2024, so a few exciting enhancements to the coverage. So first of all, MD Live telemedicine. For the traditional plans, the co-payments will be waived, providing no-cost access to those virtual MD Live physicians for minor illnesses and acute conditions. So if it's a minor illness, that means the employee, if they're engaging with an MD Live telehealth provider, they will not pay anything out of pocket. The reason that's not available on the high deductible plan is because the IRS prohibits first dollar coverage with a high deductible plan. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to be paired with that health savings account. So just a note on that. Also new this year is an On-Duo diabetes management program. So you'll see that is a virtual diabetes center that provides employees and their family members with personalized, accessible care Ultimately, that's not only providing with those employees and their family members with coaching in between doctor's office visits for support, but it also provides blood glucose monitors and A1C kits at no cost, so employees are able to monitor their diabetes throughout the year. Also to note, there are currently 442 members that have been identified as being eligible for that on-duo program. So that will be extremely helpful for any members that fall into that category in helping them manage their diabetes. And then lastly, this is very new information within the last couple of days, but Optima Health, or soon to be Centera Health, is changing their plans for the school system, where employees and their family members will now have nationwide access to Optima Health's nationwide network called PHCS if they're traveling outside of the state of Virginia. So currently, they can only seek care outside of Virginia in the event of an emergency. But now, if they're traveling to Florida or North Carolina or any state for that matter, they will have coverage through that PHCS network at the in-network benefit levels. All right, and I know that was a lot of information covered in a few short slides, so at this point I wanted to open it up to see what questions you may have. Yes.
Thank you for the presentation. The 3 stop-loss claims, what were the medical issues with the ones for this year?
Yep, so one was a cancer, one was a Crohn's disease, but that also had a bloodstream infection, and then the other was a blood disorder.
So how the stop-loss works, for example, once I pay the full amount out of pocket, the stop-loss is at the $400,000, or what's that actual stop number once I pay my out-of-pocket amount?
Yep, so the employee is going to only pay up to their out-of-pocket maximum. So let's say it varies between the 3 plan designs, but let's say it's for $4,000. The employee would pay for covered expenses only up to that $4,000, and then they're capped. But being a self-funded plan, the employer, so the school system, is paying all the remaining medical claims for that individual. So the employee's capped at their $4,000, but the school system's paying the remaining amount, and so the school system's paying any amount between that $4,000 up to the $400,000, and then the school system is capped, and that's when the reinsurance kicks in with the medical carrier.
Our actual stop number is $400,000.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I guess the main thing is there's no more increases in premiums, and there's been no change in preventative care, anything like that, so I love it.
All right. Well, excellent.
Thank you so much again for coming.
All right. Thank you all, and have a great evening. Thank you.
Agenda item 3.2 is a roll call vote for GSA policy updates, and these are the policy updates that were listed and board docs.
Separate, okay.
You might have any questions about the GSA policy updates. I entertain a motion at this time for those.
Move for approval.
Motion made by Vice Chair Axe, second.
It was me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It sounded like we pointed.
I'm trying to hear it. Motion made, second by Ms. Bowman. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Ms. Atkinson? Yes. Mrs. Boone?
Yes.
Dr. Cotton?
Yes.
Mrs. Futrell?
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemake?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Dr. Patillo?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you so much. Agenda item 3.3, 2024 school board meeting dates. There's a listed in board docs. And I entertain a motion at this time.
Move for approval. Second.
Motion made by Vice Chair Axe. Second by Ms. Futrell. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Ms. Atkinson? Mrs. Bone?
Yes.
Dr. Cotton? Mrs. Cottrell?
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemake?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker?
Yes.
Dr. Patillo?
Yes.
It's unanimous.
Thank you so much. Agenda item 3.4 is a discussion item for the Youth Entrepreneurship Pilot Program. This is a continuation from our retreat. And it's a possible race.
Thank you, Chairman Patillo. Yeah, I will, Gina's plugging it up here. All right, I will get started, and I'll be joined, of course, by Mr. Falk and Dr. DeVries. But tonight's presentation, as Dr. Patillo mentioned, is a follow-up from our summer retreat. In this, it's a re-examination of the Youth Entrepreneurship Pilot Program, or YEP, as we've identified it. All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to have Dr. DeVries and Mr. Falk chime in with it. But Dr. DeVries will come off first and begin the review on how we'll be utilizing this plan, basically from what you all ask us to do as far as the flexibility of it.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Bracy. So just a program overview. There are 3 components to this. I'm going to largely talk about the academic piece today, and then there'll be some follow-up pieces from Mr. Falk regarding the other parts. So if we go to the next slide. What we're presenting is that this is a unique opportunity for us to really develop a pathway, which I know some of you have talked about interest in really how do we articulate our pathways for students. And this is a great opportunity for us to do so in the with the topic of entrepreneurship. So what we're proposing is that we start in 8th grade with the career investigations course, that would be embedded as part of that. There would be modules and learning experiences connected directly to entrepreneurship. And then in 9th grade, students who are interested in continuing on that pathway would then take the a course called Principles of Business Marketing, which would lead us into the 10th grade year of marketing and advanced marketing in 11th grade. They kind of go hand in hand. And then in 12th grade, focus specifically on entrepreneurship. So that's our pathway that we've developed, and I'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like for the next 3 years in the next slide. So in year 1, which would be this year, we will hire personnel related to some, and I'll talk a little bit more about that, some specialists to help us not only track our work-based learning experiences, but develop, be really that liaison for community partnerships for the entrepreneurial side of it, academic side of it. We will then promote the program to 7th and 8th graders with the anticipation that as part of that, the pilot program, there is a component in there for summer camps for 7th and 8th grade students, connected specifically to NSU and Hampton University. So we would promote that and then start that program the summer of 2024. We would also start some summer paid internships with entrepreneurships that we have, that we're currently seeking to develop partnerships with for our 11th and 12th grade students. So you'll see that those summer camps and those paid internship experiences carry over through the 3 years because those are 2 stable components of the pilot program. In year 2, which would be next school year, we would launch that 8th grade career class, the career investigations, the modules component to make sure that students are kind of getting their feet wet with career awareness for entrepreneurial experiences and opportunities. And we would also simultaneously launch our 9th grade class, Principles of Business Marketing. In year 3, 2025-26, we would launch the marketing and advanced marketing classes for our 11th and 12th grade students. And then we would also, or I really should say 10th and 11th grade students, and we'd also launch the program for the entrepreneurial class for our 12th graders. Again, carrying the summer camps and the paid internships across the 3 years.
So it's back to me now. So the original budget presentation, just to give you a snapshot of what we presented at the retreat, we had, in the original budget, we had staff salaries and benefits for a total of $676,982 over the 3 years. That included a teacher, full-time teachers, some program specialists, and faculty consultants that were part-time, a webmaster, and then the fringe benefits.
we had at the time student stipends that would be 8 students per year. So it'd be 24 over the whole 3-year period. They would get $5,000 each year, which would come up to a grand total of $120,000 over 3 years. We had summer camps, as Dr. DeVries just talked about, partners in NSU and Hampton University at $40,000 a year or $120,000 over the 3 years. We also had a business component that related to some business-related help that we would provide businesses, as well as programs at campuses for training for those business partners as a business partner master class and some things that help them become better business people and entrepreneurs. That's a 3-year total of $133,018. And then lastly, it was community component, which was entrepreneurship and employment centers that would be housed at 2 churches, and we would do $150,000 a year or $450,000 over the 3 years, giving us a grand total of $1.5 million, which was what we were awarded for this grant from the state.
Okay, so this is the proposal that was presented at the school board retreat this summer. And at that time, we were directed to review the proposal and try to find options to find more ways that we can get student involvement into the program. So as such, we have a revised option that's built on that feedback, just to share with you. But we did reach out. Mr. Falk made contact, and the state confirmed that PPS is allowed to make changes to the original program proposal based on current needs or programmatic enhancement.
So this is I'll take you through what each of these components are for the revised option that we're presenting to you today. So in the original proposal, there were several staff items that were part of that proposal, and several of them were part-time positions. There was one full-time teacher position. So when we looked, we really thought about how is this going to, really, what do we need to really support our students moving forward? And B, how can this connect to the things that the state is already asking us to do in our career and technical education programs? For example, our CCCRI, our Career and College Readiness Index, that part of our accreditation is based off of. That piece has a work-based learning and service learning component built into it, and this falls right into that work-based learning experience. So we're trying to make the connections there to utilize and be, good stewards of the money. And so what we're proposing as one option is to convert those staffing positions into 2 full-time work-based learning specialist positions that would work between the 3 high schools and really be responsible for being the liaisons and developing those community partnerships with our local entrepreneurships, as well as building internship experiences for students, and more importantly, tracking those internship experiences so that we get, as a school division and for students, that we get credit for that. Because there's a tracking process and it gets a little bit in the weeds, and so having people dedicated to do that is something that would be very useful. So we would have 2 full-time specialist positions for a total of $450,000 over the 3 years. We then increased our student allotment. If you remember, it was 8 students per year for the 11th and 12th grade summer internship experiences, and we are proposing to increase that to 45 students per year, which would be 15 students per school per year. And we're confident that those 2 positions would be able to accommodate and provide the support that those students will need during their journey of their internship. So that's a significant increase in the amount of students that we'll be able to accommodate, taking it to a total of $675,000 for the 3 years. We reached out to a couple of programs and folks that we know who are currently engaged in summer programs or that we've connected with in the past when we've worked with higher ed. And we have approximated, based on those conversations, that we would need about $15,000 each summer for our summer camps. Again, that's an approximation because I don't have a contact person for those 2 higher ed institutions yet, so we have not been able to have conversations with them. But based on prior experience, we estimate about $15,000 per summer for a total of $45,000. One item that was not in the original proposal, but we know we're going to need is money for curriculum development and professional development for those 2 work-based teachers or work-based specialists, as well as the teachers that will be teaching the classes in the pathway. For a total of $52,000 over 3 years. And then again, the business component of the grant and the community component of the grant are also included in those totals to equal the total of the grant amount award, which was $1.5 million.
So, in looking at these to give you the differences, because it's important to make sure we know kind of where the money's going. Again, the total is still $1.5 million. However, we made some changes in each one of these lines to make sure that we could capture, obviously, increasing the number of student stipends, but also making changes in the lines. The bottom line in all of this, from the standpoint of what's happening, we moved $305,000 from that community component back into student component. We did not touch the business component for the training, but the money that would come for the students between staffing and the student stipends is coming from that community component. So that's basically the difference there.
Okay, so as we close, thank you, Dr. DeVries and Mr. Falk, for chiming in on this presentation. These are 2 options. One was the original proposal. The second is what we tried to put together based on the conversation that we had at the retreat. That we wanted to make sure that in the alternate proposal that we shared with you, we wanted to make sure that we were in a direct alignment with our ongoing MWBE efforts, and consequently can be deployed seamlessly as part of either model that's selected. Similar, this pilot has a natural fit where we envision our CTE to continue work with the CNI department. And, we're excited about the possibilities for our students, because I think that's what we heard loud and clear when we went back to start working on this, was try to find ways to increase the number of students. So in order to do that, we had to find the money from somewhere. So we just took it from that area that Mr. Falk just mentioned, the community piece, so that we could put those dollars there. Now, as we said, this is just a proposal we put together based on what we heard. As you heard me say earlier, we have the flexibility to model it either way you want. So we just wanted to give you this option and just open up the dialogue as well. Ms. Davis is also here, who brought this original grant and pilot program to us. So we'll try to address any questions that any of you may have.
One question I have I saw the summer camps were cut. I know you say you don't know what the actual cost will be because you don't have a contact with the schools. Do we have an idea how many children that would be?
I'm not sure that the grants specify the amount of students, so we would have to, if that's the amount we've set, we'd have to work within the parameters of that amount for student enrollment.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. To follow up on Chair's question regarding the summer camp, because I know the original budget was $40,000. Now, once we meet with the presidents of the university and they determine that the $15,000 split at $7,500 is not enough, we are able to amend that.
We have the flexibility to move the monies around.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Gotcha.
I think the biggest thing is just making sure that the programs that we're doing are very similar to what was in the original budget.
Right.
So that we're not changing the flavor of what we're doing, but we're still doing those activities, but we may not need to shift from one place to the other.
Gotcha. And then is the grants to the businesses, I know originally it was budgeted for $50,000. Is that still included? Can we go back one slide?
That's still there.
That's
in the 133-018 that, hold on, I'll tell you exactly what that was originally.
Would it be on the comparison slide?
The original was $50,000.
So it's in the business component. Those grants to businesses were in the business
it's in the
component?
business
Yes,
component.
ma'am. So that's included, the grants in business, and also the cost of the training for those businesses is in that 133-018, which would remain unchanged.
And with the business grants still go through individual?
Yes.
Gotcha, yeah, that was a good question. And under the staff positions have been cut, the original staff positions, everything is still a go for the staff position.
The staff positions that were originally proposed have been revised. So there were a few, and I don't have the grant in front of me, but there were a few part-time positions
Right.
mentioned and then a teacher position.
Right.
And so we kind of merged those in order to create 2 full-time positions to support the increase in the amount of students. So there was no, I don't think that it was detailed in terms of what those positions would actually do or accomplish, those part-time positions, so.
So it was 3 part-time program specialists, 3 part-time consultants,
Faculty consultants.
1 webmaster.
Yes.
And 1 teacher.
1 teacher, another teacher. So how many is it gonna be now?
2 full-time work-based learning specialists.
Okay.
So the consultant piece, we don't really think that we need at this point. We put some money into curriculum and professional development. We thought that if we needed a consultant to come in, that's perhaps where that would fall, to come in and help with training. And the webmaster, we weren't quite so sure how that might fit in, but in terms of the academic side, because we have a standard website and we have outlets to be able to communicate and post information and coursework.
Piece we felt we could do internally.
Yeah, we can.
And so for the 2 full-time positions, of course, I guess you don't know right off the jump street, but we're assuming those 2 full-time positions will be able to carry this program, and that would be their sole responsibility. So we wouldn't be taking instructors from something else and giving them this.
Like a stipend or part-time, no, this would be a full, somebody hired full-time for this specific position.
And so 2 full-time, no program specialists.
They would be specialists, we've just called them work-based learning specialists because that's essentially what they would be monitoring is the internship pieces, which are our work-based learning experiences that connect to our accreditation process through the DDOE, through our College and Career Readiness Index.
Can we go back to that slide?
Sure.
Okay, so the 2 full-time would be paid $225,000?
It's like
Which
50.
one is-
Yeah, it's in it.
75.
75.
75 apiece.
Okay, 75.
Yeah, we estimated about 75 with benefits and about 75,000.
I do want to thank you for the, I definitely enjoyed seeing the student ratio go from 8 to 45, so that was a year, that's amazing. And these are all paid internships, these 45 students every year. Right. Yeah, that's
Great. That's what we wanted to
I'm
see.
sorry, Dr. Cotton.
What did we ever do about the whole church piece? It was Portsmouth, Hampton, that was my concern during the retreat.
The retreat. Yeah, now that piece, we haven't addressed. Yeah, that's a piece, I guess, that we have to discuss further. We were looking at it from the programmatic standpoint of it, because I think you all had some, well, I know you spoke about that, but as far as identifying where we go from there, we just need to know what we need to do.
Okay, well, as I speak to fellow board members, as far as it being something that's coming through the city of Portsmouth, I would like to keep it in Portsmouth. I know that we have enough churches that are able to be a part of this and to send it to another city. And I say that as a board member, someone that is also in the church field, not in Portsmouth. Because even if my church was chosen and I do outside of this, I would decline it because it's coming from Portsmouth. But if it was Virginia Beach, a pastor of Virginia Beach, I would be all for it. So I like all of the adjustments, particularly moving up to 45 students. I wish they had that when I was in school, but I think that's definitely something good for the community. But I definitely want to address that Hampton. There's too many churches in Portsmouth, and I also feel that if a business wants to be a part of that, come to our city. You know, why are we going to other cities? apply for the same thing we did. That's
I think Ms. Davis can speak to the church piece. Ms. Davis can speak to the.
Well, as I mentioned at the school board meeting, this is the first time I've seen this entire budget, and the positions for the part-timers were to help the business owners. We prepared this grant for the business owners because there was no funding in the budget for the program. And it looks like there's no help for them. We need some part-time help for our business owners because we don't, I'm just one person, and that was not included in this. And with regard to the funding for the schools, we had already talked with Hampton University and Norfolk State University. They gave us the numbers, and we had already talked to Dr. Wynn and Mr. Craig Hill. I understand we would have needed their proposal anyway to do this program, but I was really a little bit confused that they didn't ask me about the part-time help we needed. The business owners don't, we're trying to teach them how to do business with the government and the school system.
So, I'm sorry, I'll let you go.
Just for clarity for me, from what I can remember from the retreat and now listening to this presentation, is the reason we have one in Portsmouth and one in Hampton because we're dealing with Hampton University as well to show, I guess, like respect in a sense to them. Is that why we have a church located in Hampton versus both in Portsmouth? That was the understanding I got.
And because our legislators from Hampton got us the money.
Got it.
That's who got us the money.
Okay.
The delegate from Hampton, she represents Hampton, she actually got us the funding. And Senator Lucas helped it stay in the budget. But it was that lady who carried that budget amendment.
But we do have one on each side.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Ms. Thomas.
Yes, just to refresh my memory, because I don't have the grant. So the business component, that gives grants to the participating businesses? Or
Yes.
okay,
Seems like
Yes.
grants to participating businesses that host our interns?
Right.
Is that correct? Am I
Right, just like the apprenticeship program, there's no difference.
Okay, and what's the community component then?
The community component would be the churches. You know, they would have the, one would be on the peninsula and one would be on the south side. And they would do the quarterly programs because a lot of business owners may not be able to participate in our training. And so they would do the quarterly meetings at their churches to certify them. In Portsmouth, we have over 5,000 businesses with 134 that actually have their certification to do business with the government. And so we need to increase that in order to help them, position them.
Okay, so the community component, just so I understand the difference. Okay, so the business component makes sense to me, that's the grant. The community component is basically a host site for training?
Host site for training and employment. We sold this to the governor based on the economic value of it in addition to the educational part of it, because it's because the minority business owners don't know how to. We want to teach them how to do business with Portsmouth Public Schools and the government. So that is why it was a yes, a strong yes from the state because of the disparity in procurement contracting.
To get more MWBE, so they're getting their MWBE certifications? Is that what they're going
Well, you want to get your state SWAM certification.
Okay, SWAM.
But there are other certifications that you would do for people who are in the master's program. Those persons would get on the GSA schedules and things like that they don't know anything about, you know. And so we want to position the business owners in Portsmouth. The reason the Commissioner of Revenue supports what we do is because we don't want to lose any of the business owners that we have. And so this is a part of that educational piece. So it'll be different topics at the I want to get started in business level, and then there will be different topics at the I've been in business 3 years or more and we need some additional training.
Okay, and then regarding, I think I heard you mention regarding the staff salaries, with the original you were proposing that there was a part-time person to host the community?
No, ma'am. When we go to TCC for the classes, there are instructors that could help with some of the classes that might be needed to train the business owners. And that's why we put that in there. We talked to the people at TCC, and they, Mr. Craig Hill shared that with us.
Okay. I like the, I do like the revised budget with the more focus on the money kind of shifted towards that. I get the reason, but I do like the new workout so that we can move some money towards the students. But thank you so much for this.
I just want to say,
Yeah. Also, what I was saying, I definitely understand how someone can speak up for certain grants to come this direction. And one thing that's particularly said was Senator Lucas. I know that she has helped other cities get grants, but that's not with conditions that something comes back to Portsmouth or anything like that. This is Portsmouth's school division that's interacting with it. I get it, the whole business portion. Now, I spoke as a board member, I spoke as a pastor, now I'm speaking as a businessman who owns 2 businesses. One of them I've been in business for 16 years. I've flown to Phoenix, I've driven to North Virginia to get certain certifications for my company. So my thing is, and early on in business, it was a struggle. So my thing is, if you're in business, business is all about taking risks. So to come through a tunnel, to come to the other side, to get whatever training you need, I don't feel that's a big deal. So, as I said before at the retreat, I take issue with that. This could help our community, as well as our students, I see that, but as well as allowing churches. Being a seminary graduate, I see church as community and community as church. So I really feel and believe that the other side should be enforced.
With any more?
What will be the final, is that another piece we're gonna come back and discuss, the piece about the site locations? Is that something we're gonna?
Well, no, I mean, I think that would be more staff.
Once the staff is hired to run the program?
So this is not an issue that we're voting on, this is a discussion item for tonight as far as the program. We pretty much at the retreat agreed to the consensus one of the program, and the staff was just going back to adjust to make sure we had more student support in the program than what we had originally. As far as the intricate details of it, that'd be more of a day-to-day staff concern, but were there any other major issues or insight you want to have on the program as a whole? I'm sorry, Vice Chair.
I just got one more. So the Third Baptist site is going to be located in Portsmouth, and I think I did mention in the last board meeting that year 2 and year 3 we're going to look into more partnerships with the other Portsmouth locations. But Third Baptist is the Portsmouth location for you. That was originally in the proposal.
45 students a year. Exciting.
All right, thank you so much, sir.
Good work.
And I'm sorry, not just sir, Dr. Gracie and staff. What else is going on?
All right, next.
Before we go to our agenda review and 3.5, I didn't know we had a couple of questions from board members that I know that Dr. Reeves was one. We wanted to get a follow-up on the where we are as far as our timeline with the language immersion program.
Sure.
You presented a great timeline at the retreat, and I just want to see where we are now as far as how that's going.
Yep, so happy to do so. We are on our timeline that I presented at the retreat. I'm happy to report that we have identified and spoken with the principals of 3 elementary schools that we have identified to be our immersion sites next year, which will be Brighton Elementary, Churchland Primary and Intermediate, and Simonsdale Elementary School. We decided that we were going to go with a zoning type model where we will open up enrollment for the kindergarten class, because it will start in kindergarten next year, through a lottery system, and for each of those 3 schools and the surrounding schools. So we'll zone them off. So for example, the program that will be at Brighton, it will be open to Brighton incoming kindergartners, as well as, let's say if there are 4 schools, we have not zoned them off yet, around Brighton. Same thing for Churchland Primary and Intermediate, which, as you can imagine, those schools surrounding would be Churchland Elementary and Churchland Academy, and then also Simonsdale. This way, it's open to the whole city. We have an equitable access and opportunity. There will only be 1 class in each, so we're looking at enrollment of about 25 students. But if you're looking at 75 students across the board going from year to year, that eventually that will matriculate into our middle school program, and they will all go to converge into 1 middle school. So we're excited about that. We met with those principals on September 15th. They all are excited and a little nervous and enthusiastic about what the future holds with that. We are also looking at our pre-K programs and how we can start at the pre-K level with not necessarily full immersion, but exploratory opportunities and practices. So one of the textbooks that we are looking to contract with has a full Spanish immersion component with it. So students will engage in that next year as well, which will then pique their interest and their parents' interest, hopefully, so that they can apply the following year for the kindergarten program. So the program will build upon itself. We'll start with pre-K, of course, in kindergarten next year. We'll add grade 1 at each of those schools the following year, all the way up to grade 5, and then into the middle school. So our next steps is we are our new world languages and ESL senior supervisor, Mrs. Hatfield, and Mr. Malachi, as you all know, have been tasked to develop based on our timeline that we presented, a more detailed critical path for an internal use, so that we know exactly what steps we need to accomplish at which point. We are looking to, I've asked Ms. Hatfield to research what we think is going to be the best model and structure for our school division. There are many models out there for dual language immersion. So to that end, we'll be visiting some other school divisions to look at that have established programs, to look at those. We'll bring our principals with us so that they get a clear picture of how those models are running in those schools. And we're looking to do that in the October, November, December timeframe. And then we'll go from there. So we've got a lot to do. Yes.
Good news, good news.
Sorry, I didn't mean to say yes. That's the teacher in me, the hand raised. That's hilarious.
So that's a good update. So are we just piloting Spanish first and then moving towards like other languages?
We will see. It's very difficult to staff. So Spanish being probably the easiest to staff. I will tell you that when in my former school district where I facilitated this process, and that was one of the areas I oversaw, I was hesitant to move into other languages because of how difficult it is to staff, and especially with staffing shortages right now. But that doesn't mean we're counting it out. We'll always look. I know, like, for example, Fairfax has I think 10 or 15 different languages that they have, but they have a long-standing developed program that is, so not saying we would not go down that path of other languages, especially if the community is very interested, but we're going to take it a step at a time.
How is our, and hopefully I'm not throwing your curveballs, I know you're still getting acclimated. How is our enrollment in Spanish right now? Are we seeing a decline, or are we seeing?
No, I'm going to say that we're probably seeing an increase or steady, because Spanish continues to be our largest enrollment of languages. So that's a good sign also that there's interest there. Thank you.
And I will say that we're actually ahead of the curve when it comes to introducing some type of formal language immersion to pre-K.
Yeah, absolutely.
The state superintendent was speaking at a session I led here a couple weeks ago, and she was stating how the state believes that pre-K and foundational learning has been left behind by the entire state. And it was glad that we are actually ahead of the curve. We hired new staff to focus directly on pre-K. We're moving to a new curriculum next year, which introduces language immersion in the curriculum as well. We use that Virginia Beach, so I know. I was excited to hear that. And our pre-K program is probably going to be ahead of the curve for the entire area at the rate that we're going. And by introducing it in a small incremental amount in pre-K, it will boost their excitement for when they get to kindergarten, first, second grade, to learn a new language. And that's what we want. We want to be ahead of the curve with this. And foundational learning, 5 years from that, will pay the big results as well as the integrated as well. So I'm glad that we're actually ahead of the curve when her Dr. Bree's department. Ms. Thomas will bring language version to the forefront in Portsmouth.
I'm just happy.
We're really going to be happy with the work that we're doing.
Right.
I do have a question. Thank you, Dr. DeVries. I'm always happy about the progress. I'm glad we've selected the 3 schools and you have just next steps in place. That does my heart good to see. I do have a question. Like you said, you implemented or were over similar program at Virginia Beach. Did you find that you had to do a lot of public education to get people to apply to the lottery? And is that something we should account for?
Yes, okay. And we already we've taken that into account as well to make sure that we do some public parent awareness, and we'll do some open house events, and of course work with Ms. Nolasco and her team to market that out across our elementary schools. It does take some education and awareness, because I think even with our principals, because I think it sometimes can sound scary that students are learning primarily in Spanish first, because they will be learning to read and write in Spanish before they learn to read and write in English. But what the data shows us and the research shows us is that they actually, not only by 3rd grade, meet their peers, but they exceed their peers because of the cognitive skills that they're able to develop through bilingualism and biliteracy.
Thank you.
And one thing I would like to, I'm not sure how it works now in the school division, if we have enough staffing for it. This is a budget discussion for next year, but as far as ensuring that when it comes to SPED services and SPED staff, even for foundational learners, to make sure that adequate services are being given there as well, it's something we really want to make sure we pay.
Yeah, and that's something I talked with the principals a little bit about, and we'll have, of course, a lot more conversation. It was just a, hey, we've got great news for you kind of visit. We hope they saw it as great news too, which they all did. But we had said, if you have positions open for instructional assistants, or start looking for bilingual folks, because the strength of the program comes in the number of people who actually are adults who are able to speak the language consistently to the students. And if there's an instructional assistant or an ESL teacher even who speaks Spanish, that really enhances the program for the students.
Any more questions about juries?
I could have one question. So, I know you mentioned open houses. So how will you educate parents about the program? Because as a parent, hearing that your children are going to learn Spanish first, I can see an aversion to that. So how do you educate the parents about the benefits?
I think just by providing them information and examples. So I'm sure our neighbors to the, wherever they are located, our near next door neighbors in Virginia Beach would be happy to share examples in their classrooms, since we don't have any yet. But that's what we found in my former school division that worked best, is to be able to just show the examples and show the students actually speak as a kindergartner by the end of kindergarten, being able to speak pretty fluently. That in and of itself was convincing to parents, and having other parents speak to what they see as the value of it. So, and it is only, unfortunately, 25 spots, but I do think we'll have enough interest. It's just an excitement around the prospect that we should fill those spots pretty easily.
Yeah, I know one thing that we do in our program that really works is parent involvement. So where the parents are actually learning Spanish along with the children in pre-K. So our big thing is identifiers. So they can tell you in our program where the bathroom is in Spanish, water, sink, playground, all the things they use every day, they can identify at 3 years old, in the Spanish language. But the parents are actually helping them with that as well at home. There are different programs online they can use. They can actually check in and log how much help they're getting. There's a lot of people as far as parent involvement with that as well. All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Another question we had stemming from the retreat in reference to school lunches and different school options. A few of you, including the vice chair, sent me an article about the food truck option for cafeteria that schools are doing now in Virginia Beach, and also the chef program. They have different a variety of ways of preparing school meals. And I know Jim Gerhoff is actually out of town tonight, so he couldn't be here, but they've already started internal discussions for that, and I want to get your feedback as a board as far as your thoughts on the alternative lunch methods. And Torres, he's here, along with Dr. Simmons from Food Services to participate if needed and also answer some of those questions. And we would like to probably schedule a visit, depending on what your feedback is, with different vendors and options and chefs and things that sort of like Jack's.
So maybe this is for Mr. Fall or it could be for Food Services. When we talked to the consultants of the programs, they said it wouldn't be any cost to the school because I'm just throwing out a number per child for free lunch. Let's say we get $4 per child. So their payment would come out of that amount. So does that take away from the school system if we're paying that food consultant out of that?
Let me make sure I understand, because I'm not familiar. So are you speaking of a company that outsources our cafeteria process?
Right.
Well, it obviously would depend on their labor cost as well as what they charge us. Yes, that money would come from us because if we're paying them and the revenue's coming in, we have to provide them whatever they're charging us. So you'd have to look at that balance.
Right.
When you look at this, the reimbursable meals, and Tara's probably better at this than I am, but when you look at reimbursable meals, what you try to do is increase the number of meals that you're serving. Absolutely. The more meals you're serving in a CEP or community eligibility provision as we are, you get more revenue. And so it has to work out. Now, what I will say, there's some things on the backside of that you have to look at as well. Number one, staffing. How is staffing going to be done? If they're staff of that company, the people that are already here will lose the benefit of being in VRS because they'll be employees. If they choose to do that, they'll be employees of that company. So it's not just the meals component, it's the community component of what you're looking at, because they can't work for us and be a part of whatever company they're with. That company would have to hire them. So those folk that have been working for us would lose their VRS benefits. So that's an important criterion. The other thing is consistency of the meals and how those menus would be structured, so on and so forth. Usually they do a good job of that. The one drawback I've seen, and I've researched this in other divisions, not here especially, but that staffing component is the hardest. Okay. How do you make that work for your current employees, benefit-wise, VRS-wise? Because if they're not in VRS, they're not accruing service time. And so then, if you're at 25 years, what do you do for those last 5 years? Because you'll be working for X company now. And then the other thing about the management of the employees. So it's a good benefit if it works for that particular division, but I've never seen anything that fixes that problem of VRS. And these people that have been working for so long, what do they do, if they're not in VRS anymore?
So we gotta make sure if we do go with a company that is not a complete overhaul, because we did hear from two companies, and one hiring the executive chef and then training your actual employees. Right. and they're not working, they're still working for PBS.
Right.
PBS.
Right.
So we just gotta make sure that we're not taking away from our
Right.
employees.
If you did a model like that, that would be the better model.
Right.
Because it would not affect your employees as much as if you said, hey, you have to go and work for X company now.
Right.
I mean, in the same token, when people outsource other areas of the school division, the same thing happens. And then what is the quality of that employee coming in if you have to pick other employees, if all of your employees don't come back?
And now the food truck option is something totally different. But that's a pilot, I think Virginia, she's doing now where they have like certain schools that are actually having food trucks come to the school. And towards you have anything on that?
Yes, like to
And thank you for coming, you work all day, brother.
no problem. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Just to speak to that, with the food truck piece, I know that you all saw the news article with Virginia Beach last night, and one of the things that they do is because they have one lunch for all the high schools. So that means that the students, they go, all high schools, say you got 1,200 in the class, so everybody gets let go at one time. They go from 12 to 1240.
Wow.
So the purpose of that particular food truck, the purpose they're using that food truck for is to offset the influx of so many students. But here's the kicker to it, they only have one food truck. It's an excellent idea, and we've been actually talking about that. And we're trying to go to implement something like that to use it not only just for the high schools, but do something during the summertime as well. But that's the reason they're doing that food truck. And they're doing like, they've actually hired the chefs as well. They're doing some of the scratch cooking, but as well from what some of the research that I've done with it, they're having the same issues as everyone else is having. It's keeping the staff actually not being able to do menu items on that particular day because of the scratch cooking, or because they're doing position-specific jobs now, where you hire in the chef and you bring it in, but you have to pay them those salaries, as Mr. Falk was speaking of. So that's my, I'm actually doing some more due diligence with it to do some more background checking on that, but that's where that piece is and where that food truck plays in, because they're only doing one lunches through all high school. They're trying to offset that influx and come through.
And so it's just one question. The one thing that intrigued me about the article is that kids were eating more. So it was reducing kids going hungry. And that's what attracts me to this particular program. So I'm just wondering, when the research that you already did on the food trucks, what did it look like? What were the cost of it? Did you guys start planning, or just?
We're in that process right now.
Okay.
We actually have a state conference coming up for the whole state of Virginia. That's coming up at the Cavalier in Virginia Beach, in next 2 weeks here. And we, as the director, it's a director and supervisors conference. So that's going to give us the opportunity to ask those questions. And Mr. Gilhoff there, and myself, is sitting with the other directors, and pick their brains and get all those numbers to be able to figure it out. But from what I'm seeing is that a lot of kids like it just because it's just something new.
Yeah,
like
of course.
to see something new.
Of course.
And continue to change and just do a new energetic program. And that's why I reached out today and talked to some of my contacts. That's one of the things they say. They kind of move around and you kind of keep it fresh. And believe it or not, what's crazy about it, they still serve the same thing that's being served in the cafeteria.
Right.
It's just
in
the truck. What you saw on that truck last night was the same thing that was being served in the cafeteria. It's just on the truck.
It's in the cafeteria.
And to stick-
But I'm going to the truck because it's cooler.
Those trucks have to be outfitted with certain equipment. You just can't say I'm gonna get a truck.
Yeah.
Have certain ovens,
Yeah.
so it has to be outfitted for that particular reason. So it's easy to say that, but it has to be outfitted to be conducive to what you're trying to do. Because regardless of a truck or you're in a cafeteria, you still have to follow the National School Lunch Program.
Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome.
No problem. For the agenda review, this is at 3.5. October 12th, 2023 is located in your board docs. Of course, if you have any items to add, please email those. And so we can have those added to the agenda for the next meeting. Before we move to our closed session, I want to remind everyone that on Tuesday, the 10th, Tuesday the 10th, that Dr. Bracy and staff will be presenting the City Council for our reappropriation request concerning reappropriation that we sent last month in September. I would like for all board members, if most of you could, please be in attendance on Tuesday. I believe that starts at 5 o'clock. And I'm sorry, okay. Any questions?
No, go ahead.
I'll ask him first. It's okay. I'm good.
Which one, y'all? Anybody want to?
You said it's next Tuesday,
It's
correct?
coming Tuesday.
Okay, and I think I saw Dr. Bracy already sent the presentation over to City Council, right?
She requested it.
Oh, I think, right.
I don't know if she requested a presentation.
I don't know. She asked if you were going to do a presentation.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if City Council had sent any questions prior to that they might have, so that Dr. Bracy could prepare for those questions.
No, we've been.
Y'all talked, okay.
We watched the meeting.
Okay.
To try to get a feel for some of the questions that they may have. Yeah, I did see that she was asking for the presentation, but based on all of that, I mean, our time was spent to get prepared for tonight.
Right.
So we will start tomorrow getting prepared
and
for
then
next
probably
week.
we'll have it together.
So yeah,
Okay.
but I mean, I
I
will
just
have
didn't
it.
know if they had any, I didn't know if City
No.
Council sent any questions prior
Right.
to that they might have, since they requested the meeting.
It was, some of it was mentioned, and I think you all were copied on that email. So there were some questions that were in there that we're working to address in our presentation.
Okay, yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I guess you said something, and I'll go back and look at it, but it is understood what it's for, correct, CTE?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's clear in terms of what it is. They know it's twofold. One, the $9 million for the CTE center, and the $2 million for the retention for our staff. But the questions that they have are related to, I think, what was it, operational
costs,
operational
outfitting,
Okay.
staffing,
Yes.
the facility,
So future costs.
future costs, as well as obviously the building cost as well. Total cost.
So some we have, some we probably won't get by next Tuesday, but we'll bring what we have in our presentation. Yeah.
And just to share with the board, when the city manager items go, I get them to review with the city attorney's office. I review them in form and fashion. Number one, the numbers right. Is everything, what we asked for, is it understood? Did we miss something? And I review those. What's in their agenda packet is what I reviewed and sent back to them. Now, obviously, they have the right to change things, what have you, but what I reviewed as of what there today was what I reviewed. So just to make sure that what we convey to them is not misconstrued, or we missed something, or we missed something on our side, or they misconstrued something, and it comes off not what we wanted, but at form and fashion right now, it looks like what we've asked for.
Okay. And I asked because, I know time is the essence of what we're trying to do. And I want to thank all of you again for your strategic spending so that we're able to ask for this money to be appropriated. And I just want to remind us, this is something that many of us talk to our constituents about. And especially to my left, it's being pushed as well as to my right. So I just want to make sure that we have, I believe that we have all our ducks in the ring, T's crossed, I's dotted. But you all spend very strategically. I can't get over that, and I just thank you.
And part of that, Dr. Cotton, is, we'll address that in the presentation as well, because I'm sure in the mind of some, how do you have this amount of money that wasn't spent? So I think prior to getting into the actual meat of the presentation, I think it's important that we give a little background into how we got there, so that the public will understand that this was not something that it happened because of other circumstances that was in place that allowed us to do that. So I think it's important that we lay that groundwork, the foundation, so they understand. And I think from that point, they'll have a better understanding of how we're able to make this request. We want to use it for the way that you all have talked about, the community has talked about. I think, as I mentioned, one of my first weeks here, I had someone They used to teach at Northam, to come see me and want to see this program back. So it's not just a board. I mean, we hear that this is what the board wants. It's what the community wants. It's what the students want more of. You know, TCC offers it, but it's what students want more of. So we want to be able to present that so that they would have this opportunity and that we'll be able to give them that opportunity like some of the other divisions that are right around us as well.
Even you spoke of then, I was one who benefited from what they called it back then, but I like the fact that our students would leave with credentials, that they're able to get jobs. But you will never know that I can do woodwork because I didn't have any credentials from it. So just wondering, and also speaking of budget, it was something that I looked at on coming on the board, even going back to COVID, how expenses were lower because students were not in class. So that may be something that raises questions, but I don't know how far you all will go back and get that information, but thank you. That's all I have.
All right. Any other questions, comments? All right, so. So we'll see you all on Tuesday. We'll be in council chambers. All right. Then I have 3.6. I'll ask Vice Chair to take us into closed meeting at this time.
Move that the board enter to a closed meeting under provisions of section 2.2-3711 of the Code of Virginia for the following purpose. Discussion concerning the superintendent and the school board as committed under subsection 8.1. Consideration of personnel matters, including the assignment, performance, and resignation of specific school employees as committed under subsection 8.1. Consultation with legal counsel concerning a legal matter requiring the advice of such counsel as committed under subsection 8.7.
Motion made to have a second. Second. Second on this room. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, Madam Clerk.
Ms. Atkinson?
Yes.
Mrs. Boone?
Yes.
Dr. Cotton?
Yes.
Mrs. Petria?
Yes.
Mrs. Shoemake?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Dr. Whitaker? Dr. Patillo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Now move to closed meeting.
da 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 da